Alright, it's time to go over the books I read in February. So I'm gonna make it fun again this month, and I'm going to go through the books in alphabetical order by title. First, I read Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. This was my library challenge pick. I needed to read a genre that was either a genre I rarely pick up or one that I haven't picked up yet, and I definitely don't gravitate towards romance, if at all. A lot of it is because of how modern romance is right now, and the spice content being pretty high in probably 98% of them. But Lynn Painter is known for having more clean YA romances, and so I picked up one of her books, and I didn't enjoy the characters per se, and this is for a lot of people, they don't pick up YA romances because you're reading about teenagers in love and everything like that, and if they're adults, it kind of weirds them out a little bit. But for me, I almost felt like, because my husband and I started dating in high school and then eventually got married, this book just had the nostalgic feel for me of my own personal love story. Not that this story was anywhere close to how ours is, but just taking me back to those feelings that I had, because I am not a person who had adult romances. I got married to my high school sweetheart, so I don't gravitate towards adult romance. I think I figured that out with this book, that's why maybe some, besides just the spice content, why some of the romance books don't work for me. I think that's why I actually really enjoyed this one. I didn't really like the main character. I liked the love interest, but I didn't really care for the main girl. But it was just fun to read, and I actually pulled out a lot of my old CDs that I listened to in high school, and there's a big theme of creating playlists in this book, so it was fun to just reminisce and nostalgia of when I was in high school, especially because I was dating my now husband, so it was just kind of a fun read to get into. I don't know if I'll pick up anything else by Lynn Painter, but now I know of at least one author that I can trust with reading her romance. The next book in alphabetical order would be Grave Peril by Jim Butcher. I have a full spoiler vlog if you haven't seen it yet. This Dresden File book was much different than the previous two. Not in a bad way, in a fun way, and I still had a lot of fun making the spoiler vlog, even though it's not really a full-on murder mystery anymore for this one. But I enjoyed my time with it, and getting to be a ghostbuster, and meeting new characters, and meeting previous characters. So it was just a fun time, and I can't really talk about it much more because it's a third book in a series. So go see my spoiler vlog if you are interested and have read that book. The next book I actually DNF'd. but that is Honey by Isabel Bonta. This takes place in the 90s and follows Amber Young in almost like a coming of age type story, as she's also becoming a famous singer. And I thought it was going to be closer to like the music side and like that whole thing, but it really wasn't. And there was just like some sexual content that I didn't enjoy having to read, that I just didn't enjoy. There were multiple instances of it, and it just became too much, and a book that was different than I expected it to be in a bad way, because I compared it to Daisy Jones and the Six, and that one I didn't fully love either, and that actually had more musical elements in it than this one does, but it has that same kind of drama and like behind the scenes backstage stuff. There's also eating disorder representation in this. There's LGBTQ representation in this. So those are just some content warnings that, stacking on all the content stuff in this, I just am deciding to DNF this. It does have a pretty pink and shiny cover. It just was not for me. And the next book I listened to fully on audiobook, and that is My Husband's Wife by Alice Feeney. And I really enjoyed this one. It does have some sexual content, and I would have preferred it to be more closed door, but there's a reason for it. But I'm not gonna go into that too much because that will spoil things. This is a book about a woman named Eden Fox who goes out on a run, and when she gets back to her house, she realizes her house key does not fit in the door lock correctly anymore. And when she gets someone answering the door, it's oddly a woman who's wearing her clothes and looks very much like her. And she doesn't understand why this other woman has taken her place in her own home. And so that's just the start to this twisty thriller. But I enjoyed it a lot. So if you're looking for a very twisty domestic thriller, I usually am not a domestic thriller type person either. But so far, these last two books by Alice Feeney that I've picked up, I have enjoyed them a lot. And the next book is an ebook that I mentioned was a NetGalley e-arc, and that is The Legend of the Nine-Tailed Fox by Katrina Kwan. This is the second book by this author that I've read, and I have to say this one is probably going to stick with me the most out of those two. I really enjoyed this one. This is actually a romantasy that I personally enjoy a lot because there's no spice. The romance is second to the fantasy, which I think giving it a romantasy label is not good for them to be doing, because I think if you're a romantasy girly, you're gonna be upset because it really doesn't have heavy romance. You get the, like, if you're a slow burn romance person, maybe, but this one you really get time to see why they end up together, and it's also enemies to lovers, and I think sometimes that can be done wrong if you're doing it in the aspect of the lustful way that romantasy has been done lately. So I think in this way, it's done with actual love and not that lustful gaze, I guess. But this is a story about a nine-tailed fox named, I may get this wrong, you can correct me if I pronounce it wrong, but I tried to look at the pronunciation, and I think it's Yue, Y-U-E, and Sonam is the love interest, and he is the demon hunter prince. He's a royal, but his job is not in the palace. He is the kingdom's demon hunter. He's trying to wipe out the infestation of any demon in the human world, and he ends up capturing Yue. He ends up capturing her, bringing her back to the palace, and then the magistrates open the portal to hell and try and basically put her back in it. But before she completely gets taken by the portal, she grabs Sonam, and he is now trapped in hell with her. And so it's all about this. They make this blood pact to get him back to the surface, and that's where this journey begins. But I really enjoyed this book. I don't know how much of the rings of the different trials of hell that they have to go through are based on the Chinese mythology that this book is built on, but I had a lot of fun reading through the different puzzles and temptations that these characters had to go through to get to the portal back out. And I also enjoyed the Chinese mythology that was represented in this. I am a huge fan of Daughter of the Moon Goddess by a different author, and I saw the same myths kind of crossing over from that one. So it kind of made me feel smart because I'm learning all this different fantasy lore, Asian-centric magic and myths. So I really enjoyed this one. If you enjoy the same romantasy types of books that I do, I think you're also gonna like this one. And if you're the type of romantasy fan of Fourth Wing, I don't think you'll latch onto this one as much. I have a final DNF, and that is Tomorrow, and Tomorrow. Tomorrow times 3 by Gabrielle Zevin. So I thought this was gonna be more video game involved, and I quickly realized that I was not gonna get a whole lot of video game, and it was more about the romance, sort of. Both of these people are not great people to even care about. Sadie, this is pretty early on in the book. Like, I barely made it into this book before I gave up. Sadie has a relationship with her professor, who this professor is also married to someone living in Israel. So he is sneakily doing this because he is in the United States teaching these college classes on video game design and stuff. So I already have issues reading about infidelity in books, so it became like the ick of the student-professor relationship to infidelity on top of that. So I just am not gonna continue this because it would just waste my time. Once again, I thought it was something else and it wasn't. So those were all the books that I read in February. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I did, how you liked them or didn't like them, or let me know what books sound interesting based on what I said. And as always, so I can see everyone in the next video, please click the subscribe button. And also, YouTube thinks you would enjoy these videos over here. So if you want to see more bookish content from me, please click one of those videos. Thank you so much for watching.